Dr. Franklin Kameny had only been in his job with the Army Map Service for 5 months when he was called into their Maryland headquarters on November 26, 1957. Information has come to the attention of the U.S. Civil Service Commission that you are a homosexual, a man told him. What comment, if any, do you care to make? Kameny protested. His personal life was not the proper concern of the U.S. government, but less than 1 month later, he was fired, joining the thousands of gay men and women across the federal government who lost their jobs in what would be dubbed the Lavender Scare of the 1950s and 60s. Most of them preferred to go quietly. It made sense. Speaking out risked being outed in a deeply homophobic society. But Frank Kameny decided to fight back. Kameny sued the government for the firing, and in doing so became the first person to ask the courts to recognize discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation. He lost the case, and he could never again get a government job that required a security clearance. But losing his job didn't silence Kameny. Instead, it turned him into one of America's most prominent advocates for gay rights. Throughout the 1960s, Kameny testified before Congress, coined the slogan "Gay is Good," and brought newfound visibility to the movement by helping lead a series of pickets outside the White House and other government buildings.
We are seeking our human dignity, our equality and our acceptance as the homosexuals that we are and have a right to be.
But despite the publicity, his tactics had few victories to speak of. By 1970, Kameny's influence was on the decline. He was struggling financially, and with the Stonewall riot in New York City in 1969, gay rights activism took on a more militant edge. Kameny and his respectable, orderly pickets were on the way out. And then President Nixon presented him with an opportunity. In September 1970, he signed a law giving the nation's capital one non-voting delegate in Congress. An aide working at the Department of Agriculture by the name of Alan Hofford had an idea. Running a gay candidate could bring unprecedented attention to the cause. Kameny was the obvious choice. Hofford enlisted Paul Kunstler, a friend of Kameny's and a veteran Politico, and they asked Kameny if he would run. He said yes, and on February 3, 1971, he announced his candidacy. As a homosexual American citizen, I am determined to move into the mainstream of society from the backwaters to which I have been relegated, Kameny declared. The theme of his campaign was personal freedom, and his first challenge, just getting on the ballot. Candidates needed 5,000 signatures, and Kameny had only 3 weeks to get them. Volunteers started at DC's gay bar scene, where patrons signed and donated, but they needed more, and fast. So his campaign bussed in members of the Gay Activist Alliance from New York City to lend a hand. When February 23rd arrived, he had nearly 8,000 signatures. Kameny was on the ballot, the first ever openly gay candidate to run for Congress. But winning would require beating Walter Fauntroy, the Democratic nominee and a heavy favorite. He knew it was a long shot. But winning wasn't necessarily the point. As a candidate, Kameny was entitled by law to equal time on TV and radio stations. He had a platform, and he intended to use it. He was everywhere, telling the world about a raft of issues facing the gay community. Harassment from police and criminalization of same-sex relations, discrimination in employment, even the way tax laws unfairly benefited those who were married. Kameny didn't just talk about issues facing the gay community, however. He emphasized civil rights and an end to the Vietnam War. He called for greater consumer protection laws and more funding for public transit. He was running to win. And then came March 23rd, the big day. After 7 weeks of frantic campaigning, with the support of hundreds of volunteers, the first openly gay candidate had his chance. From the campaign headquarters, they watched the results come in, and Kameny lost, winning just under 2,000 votes. Walter Fauntroy became DC's first delegate to the U.S. House of Representatives. But Kameny declared victory. "We achieved very fully everything we wanted to," he said. "I think we will be included in the concerns of the political structure from here on out." Said Paul Kunstler, Frank's campaign was the beginning of gay political influence in Washington. Losing the election, like losing his job, did not silence Frank Kameny. He would continue the fight for gay rights through activism and politics for the rest of his life. For more famous DC activists, check out our Boundary Stones playlist and subscribe to WETA PBS on YouTube.